Hello summoners and welcome back to another Pro Guides video. My name is Nathan and we'll be talking about the 5 best junglers on patch 11.10. When you're playing one role that can influence how all 3 lanes play out, it's a pretty good idea to take a look at these power picks to control the flow of the game. Do note that the champions in this video are generally the most meta picks for their role, and as a result, most of them are picked or banned pretty frequently. If you're looking for champions to play that are much less contested, check out our top 3 champions to main series. The champions in those vids are still strong enough to carry with, but they're low in both pick and ban rate, meaning that you're more likely to get your hands on them. First, and probably the best jungler overall on our list, is Elise. With this patch, catch-up experience has been added back to the jungle camps, which takes away a lot of the skill that comes from balancing optimal pathing and ganking. Now, if you turbo gank and clear a few camps in between, you'll be able to have a massive impact on your laners while not falling too far behind the other jungler. And when it comes to spam ganking, no champion does it better than Elise. That's because Elise not only has crazy amount of burst damage and CC early game, but thanks to Repel, you can even use her to tower dive as early as level 3. Now, I'm not saying to mindlessly just run top lane and force a dive. You have to wait for the wave to crash, and you have to make sure that both you and your ally are able to take down the enemy champion for a viable dive attempt. But when you can pull them off correctly, dives, especially the early ones, are one of the best ways to generate a lead in solo queue. Since on top of giving you gold, you'll be able to deny target minions and tilt them off the rift. Once you get a lead, you'll be able to push that lead as hard as you can, constantly either ganking or invading their enemy jungle. As a general rule, once I have Sorcerer's Shoes and Night Harvester, I like to spend more time in the enemy jungle than my own. That way, even if I can't find their jungler, I can just take the camps away over farming my own camps and relieving pressure for the enemy. Let's clarify something about Elise's power in the later stages. It's generally said that she falls off as the game drags on, but it's not like she becomes useless. If anything, Elise's damage is more insane once you reach full build, able to one-shot almost any champion that she lands her full combo on. But the issue is that you need to land your cocoon on your opponent followed by all your damage, and when grouped up 5v5 with tons of wards down, that's usually not going to happen. So, if the game does happen to stretch out to the later stages, you'll constantly need to look for picks by bush cheesing and catching enemies mid-rotation over just perma-grouping like a lot of people fall into. But it is better to avoid reaching that point if you can, so if you really do care about streamlining your gameplay with optimal pathing and perfect executed ganks, be sure to head over to ProGuides.com. Our top tier coaches can help you iron out all your mistakes, improve where you're already good, and give you some of their own personal techniques to help them get to the top of the ladder. So what are you waiting for? Head over and book your session now, as you can stop grinding your face against the solo queue wall, wondering why you can't get anywhere, and start actually making those sweet LP gains. Now, let's go to our next pick, shall we? Our second pick in the jungle is Fiddle. I personally think that Fiddle is a very close second to Elise, but he's also much easier to execute since he scales so well for team fights. If you'd rather not deal with the pressure of Elise or any other early game junglers have when it comes to having to win early and fast, he's probably the best pick for you. The one thing that makes Fiddlesticks so strong in the super skirmish and gank heavy meta is that he doesn't have to totally concede the early game to his opponent. With his insanely fast and healthy clear, he isn't really susceptible to being invaded and fought as he tries to clear. And if your opponent does try to fight you, Fiddle's dueling isn't actually that bad. Most other farming champions don't stand a chance at 1v1ing their early game counterpart, and while you definitely shouldn't be forcing the fight yourself as Fiddle, if your opponent is the one coming into your W range, you'll be able to win the fight through your healing as long as they don't have enough CC to burst you. In the event that it is a champion that you can't 1v1 like Shinzo, you can simply use your fear to scurry away. And one thing that makes him so good as a jungle carry is that he comes online so much faster than the other hard carries in this role, like Yi and Kha'zix, who need a couple of items to really be able to carry fights. Fiddle's multi-target fear and massive AoE damage make him capable of easily winning fights for his team anytime that he can land a big ultimate from out of vision. That being said, it's pretty unlikely to have a full-on 5v5 early on into the game, so your main focus should be ganking every time that your ultimate is up. You can use this massive blink range to either gank over walls or lane gank, but remember, use your trinket to clear vision first. It's so important that you land your ultimates out in the fog of war to proc the fear. He's truly a terrifying pick. While our first 2 picks are definitely a notch or 2 above the rest of our champions due to how overwhelmingly good they are at what they specialize in, the rest of the champions that we have are plenty OP and can still carry just as hard when you play them right. The first of those is Shaco. When you're playing Shaco, your goal is to get the snowball rolling fast and hard. The key to this is making sure that you're doing your first clear right. It's not exactly rocket science, but you do have to set up your boxes properly to make sure that you get off a good start. When you do stack those boxes right away, you'll have one of the quickest initial clears in the game, and you're able to gank much faster than the opponents can react. That, alongside with the fact that your Q can get over the wall of any game, will most likely always result in a kill or at least a flash with your first gank. Just be sure that you're blinking behind your opponent, and then place down a box to cut off their escape route before you start attacking them. Once you successfully gank a lane, don't let the pressure up. Repeat ganks are very easy with Shaco, since he doesn't really rely on a long cooldown ultimate or anything like that, so spam gank until you're fed and your targets feel like giving up. We've given the standard AD build here, which is great for jumping in and one-shotting squishy targets, but if your team is already AD heavy, or if you just want to counter a dive heavy enemy comp, AP Shaco is just as strong. It just plays in a slightly different way. Our next pick is Kha'zix. Out of all the assassins in League, Kha'zix is the one that seems to be always adapting to any meta, which probably has to do with his kit, but he also bugs me. Flying assassin cockroach. Whether it's playing him glass cannon to one-shot squishies, a tanky or bruiser build for dueling, or sitting back with his W evolve to poke out his opponents, there's always some way to make him work as a top tier pick in the jungle. The build that we have here is, in my opinion, the more fun assassin build. While Kha'zix may take a bit longer to get going than other assassins in the jungle, due to his reliance on having his evolves, once he does get going, it can be an incredibly hard snowball to stop. If someone comes into you 1v1 in your jungle, you can easily blow them up with that bonus isolation damage. Even if you're outnumbered, your leap and stealth will allow you to escape from any bad situation. In addition to him being basically unbeatable 1v1, Ka also has more going for him in the later stages of the game than his peers. Most assassins struggle a lot when it comes time to group up. Even with all their bursts, it can be very difficult to get onto targets and successfully kill them in the middle of a team fight. But with Ka, once you have evolved your jump, you can get onto the squishy opponents from a pretty far range, easily picking them off the second that they step even a little bit too far away from the ally, isolating themselves. Then after you get the kill, you just leap right back out. Alternatively, you can also stay in the fight using multiple stealths from your ultimate and Duskblade procs to get kill after kill. Just be sure that you don't cancel your stealths immediately, use a time that your enemies can attack you to wait for your Q's cooldown. Like I said before, Ka's ability to flex his build and playstyle to match pretty much any situation keeps him around no matter what meta we're in. He's always pretty much gonna be an S tier or an A tier. And that brings us to today's question of the day. What other champion are always good in the meta? Remember, good doesn't really have to mean ridiculously OP, just picks that are somewhat between the S and A tier, or maybe even strong B plus picks that are more than just viable. For me, I'd have to say Caitlyn. Even when the stats say that she's not the best, I don't think she ever felt bad to play. But that's just me, we want to hear from you. So, let us know your answers in the comments down below. Finishing off our list, we have Shinzo. In some ways, Shin is like the AD form of Elise. While his jungle clear is pretty healthy, it's also relatively slow, so don't waste time AFK farming your jungle camps. Your main focus will be on constantly ganking or forcing fights on the enemy jungler when your laners have priority. While Shin may not necessarily have the ability to commit to early tower dives like Elise does, he's a much stronger duelist, making him one of the best champions in extended fights. On top of his fighting power, he has a much higher engage range, being able to dash onto targets from 1,100 units away. So basically, once you start fighting an opponent, it's almost impossible to lose as long as it's 1v1, and they have no chance of escaping. One more thing that Shin has going for him is his ability to frontline in team fights while building a pretty good amount of damage thanks to his ultimate. Since his ultimate helps shrug off a huge amount of damage in fights, you can front to back while ignoring the enemy ADC and mages for 5 seconds, or even flash onto the backline and use your ultimate to scatter the enemy team. Either playstyle works, but it's just a matter of figuring out which one is right for playing with your team and against the enemy comp. Now, for a couple of things for your build on Shinzo, the build that we provided is well-rounded, with Eclipse giving you strong early game damage and the rest of the items giving you a nice mix of damage and durability. But you shouldn't just mindlessly use the same cookie cutter build every single game, and this doesn't just go for Shinzo, but kind of everybody that we've talked about. If you are dealing with tankier, lower damage enemy teams, go Blade of the Ruined King over Sterax. Or when you're dealing with AP heavy teams, go for Wit's End right after finishing your Eclipse. You can even mess around with the glass cannon crit builds, utilizing Immortal Shield Bow and Navori Quick Blades for crazy damage output and super low cooldowns. Just note that going full damage means that you're pretty vulnerable in team fights when your ultimate wears out. And that's gonna be it for our top 5 junglers on 11.10. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to sub so you never miss out on our meta guides, so you're always in the loop for what the best picks are. And remember, let us know what champs you think are mainstays in any meta down in the comments below. One last thing, don't forget to check out our Discord in the description box below, where you can also enter our giveaway or just hang out and be a part of the community. I can't wait to see you guys back in the next video, but until then, good luck on the Rift, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.